Okay, so let's move on to the second minigame mode in terms of the forms of the minigame tent. And that's what appears to be by the forms of Flip Out Frenzy. So, win minigames to take control of the most spaces. Oh, does that sound a little bit familiar to you? Well, for those of you who haven't seen our Let's Play of Mario Party 5 already, then you do realize about the fact that this particular minigame mode right here is actually very similar to the minigame mode from Mario Party 5, known as Minigame Wars. So, even though the concept might be exactly the same, although the only difference is this time is the fact that this is on the Wii. So, to win Flip Out Frenzy, you must own the most tiles by game's end. Each time you win a minigame, you'll pick a tile. It and tiles in all 4 directions will flip to show your mark. There's a late game shake up too. So yeah, and as far as I've realized something is the fact that this particular mode does able to actually give me a different text font here and there with that particular hand cursor right here, which as far as I'm aware, because that is actually very similar to the forms of how it does it on usually use it all the time, for not only for the American version, but also the Japanese version as well. So mind you, I think this might be the only time that we actually see that particular font for that hand cursor based off from the NTSC version, whilst mind you, only informs have been the majority of this Let's Play so far, that the actual font looks a lot different, because obviously this is the UK PAL version. So in this case though, let's just go ahead and give a good old wash with the actual chain jump itself. So while the other computer players are actually somewhat feels a bit slower than the others, so we can able to expect that we can able to give this good old chain jump a good old scrub. So there it goes. So something's worth mentioning for the sake of the actual the uploading schedules for this point, and that is the fact that today's day is of course the 15th of May today, in this case in 2022 today. So naturally we're pretty much at the halfway point in terms of May already before we move on to the June month. So we can pretty much expect of how this is going. So in this case though, yeah, every time you win this particular any kind of 4-player minigames in general, then it's up to you to able to actually pick one of those specific spots for these specific tiles. However though, you can choose any spaces as you wanted to, but ultimately though, I was gonna able to actually choose the corner, so just in case I can able to actually fill up certain spots of certain tiles as far as I'm concerned with. So, and I get the strong sense of feeling too, is the fact that during the forms of the actual Flip Out Frenzy gameplay, as far as the forms of frame rate goes, is actually locked in the forms of 30 FPS, which kind of feels a bit weird at first, especially noticeable after playing through Crown Showdown, which for the majority of the forms of Crown Showdown, that particular minigame mode does manage to able to actually run smoothly, like 60 FPS. So as a result though, I have no idea why that Flip Out Frenzy is the only minigame mode to only run at 30 FPS, but it doesn't bother me too much, I must say, especially noticeable about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, it's just the fact that, well, I honestly have no idea why I say things like that, so... Ah, darn it, it looks like that Waluigi might win this, because he somehow managed able to get himself a very good boost, thanks to the forms of how the fact that I somehow let him win, so, yeah, I honestly have no idea why I just lost that, so... And of course, Waluigi got the rose out of his, I would say like his sleeve or something like that. Well, mind you, it has been about a couple of hours since I actually last played this, ever since in yesterday, for the sake of the forms of Crown Showdown. So, anyway, so we'll take a loss anyway, so I get the feeling that Waluigi might able to actually take one of my, tiles. So in this case though, he's probably gonna choose. Oh, and by the way, with those black spots right there, you can't able to actually just to choose them. So because of this though, you always have to rely on the forms of how the fact that we need able to choose the actual specific tiles for those gray spots. So, and I think if you about to be able to think you're pretty much almost done with the forms of Flip Out Frenzy and stuff like that, obviously that it might actually still continue on until That once every single tiles has been full up and everything. So, which again, it does kind of reminds me of the forms of minigame wars from Mario Party 5, except the fact that I get the feeling that Flip Out Frenzy might actually go a little bit more faster than in forms of how it does it on minigame wars. Because obviously, in order to actually finish the entire mode, for the sake of the forms of minigame wars, that is the fact that you have to fill up each and every single spaces, and as soon as you reach at the very end, while you did manage to fill up every single spaces in the forms of those specific hexagons and stuff like that, then obviously that particular mode ends. Whilst in here though, it kind of feels a bit similar, except the fact that the biggest difference is that the actual length for that particular minigame mode feels a lot more faster than it wants how it does it on minigame wars, so... But yeah, that's as far as I can actually try to figure about it. Thus, you can able to actually fill up the entirety of these tiles a lot faster than in forms of how it does it on, you know, you have to able to choose one of those hexagons for the sake of the forms of in Mario Party 5. So as a result though, yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to explain about this mode, so... Okay, so it looks like so far so good anyway. Well, at least we did manage to took one of Waluigi's tiles, so at the very least that's that. So I suppose I should probably mention about this as well, aside from the fact that we've already got, darn it, we have to go back to Treacherous Tightrope again. So anyway, aside from the fact that, like I said before, that we actually on the halfway point in terms of May already, so in this case though, we can probably expect how this is going. But, exponentially also, that I suppose I forgot to mention about this, ever since in not only Kirby and the Forgotten Lands Let's Play, but also The Simpsons Hit and Run Let's Play, as far as some toys has already mentioned about that. That is the fact that, well, recently, from about 2 weeks ago, recently SpongeBob SquarePants has officially become 23 years old. So, yeah, I can't believe time flies, doesn't it? Although, mind you, until in 2024, that the entire SpongeBob series will be eventually become 25 years old. So, yeah, no wonder why time flies. Especially noticeable after dealing with, like, you know what. So, like, watching films, and as well as just playing games and all that stuff. Like, including that recently I've managed able to go back onto The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, because obviously with that sequel, it's going to be like now releasing until 2023. So in this case though, I don't mind the wait of it, so at least for the time being, I can able to actually play Breath of the Wild at any point at this point right now. So yeah, not much else to tell. Alright, so let's move on to the next minigame, which is In a Nick of Time. So yeah, that pretty much explains it from here. Oh, and by the way, that the majority of the forms of those mini-games we are playing, for the sake of the forms of Flip Out Frenzy, that is going to be all likely 4-player mini-games. I don't think there's any ability that you can able to actually play battle mini-games this time, unlike the forms of how it does it on Minigame Wars, so it's just all majority of 4-player mini-games, I'm pretty sure. But you know, you get the idea about that, so... Although, originally, I was trying to pre-order Klonoa Remasters on the Nintendo Switch, but unfortunately though, it's the fact that we actually come across into our stalking issues. So because of this though, once the actual stalking stuff has been back up, well, the only website I'm talking about when it comes to stalking or out of stock situation, which appears to be on Amazon. And as a result though, I just couldn't seem to able to pre-order the game, because I was really looking forward to able to actually getting that particular game, either on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One or Series X, or even most notably the Nintendo Switch, so I can able to play those amazing 2 games again, but on the go. So as a result though, I just have no idea when I'm about to be able to pre-order that particular game, assuming if the actual stalking is about to be back up. But yeah, you probably get the idea of how annoying of certain items usually goes out of stock for about a few days worth noting for. Well, mind you about the fact that luckily it's only for roughly about 2 months left now until that particular game will about to be able to get its release, so... Anyway, so now I've actually won that, so let's just go ahead and select this particular tile here. So that way we can fill up 3 planks, or 3 blanks of space here. And it looks like we're on fire right now, for the sake of the forms of that particular progression so far, for this particular flip-out frenzy, so... Alright, Swing Kings, we already know what this is. Although, I was expecting if I was able to steal Waluigi's tiles there, but I think we should probably save that for later, because, well, relatively speaking, I get the feeling that after this minigame is finished, then we can pretty much expect of what's gonna happen coming up, so... Alright, so we need to focus here. Well, it doesn't really matter, so, it doesn't matter if I'm usually gonna be going for 19 or 18 or lower than that, but, regardless of such though, that's as far as I can usually try to talk about. So anyways, let's just go and keep on doing some very, very good... Ah, I messed it up, but that's okay, because, you know, it's not gonna go anywhere for the sake of defaults and the maximum 20 points for Swing Kings and stuff like that, so I might be alright just for that. So yeah, as soon as we're able to hit on to this particular point right here, then, well, after I decide able to fill up my tiles first, so in this case though, let's just go ahead and point it right in that spot, and then that way, it will able to actually fill up the entire panels, or tiles rather. Well, that basically, as far as what the actual rules said, that the game is not going to be over yet, because MC Ballyhoo just somehow got the hammer, and he decides to able to break 2 of those spots right there. So, I think it's predetermined by random, by the way. So, in this case though, he did manage to able to smash on the bottom right corner and almost to the top right corner. So, relatively speaking, I don't think he'll able to actually do all of the actual titles basically. So, he just basically just choose 2 random ones most likely. So, at least it doesn't matter which specific tiles he's going to be smashing through, depending if you're able to replay that particular minigame mode. So, yeah, that pretty much explains it. Alright, flip the chimp, here we go. Except this time that it's going to be 4 Hat Bros in order able to actually just play this particular minigame itself. Looking good so far as for my fast reflections to that particular motions and stuff like that, so... But I somehow still win. Not too bad for all that... Well, you probably already know what I mean. I do apologize if my commentary gets a little bit tad bare bones for this point today. Well, that's only mainly because, honestly guys, that's just not much else I can say about for this point. Especially noticeable about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, about the fact that, well, you probably already know about the films of the past few days worth noting for, so... Anyway, so let's go ahead and choose that particular side here. And potentially speaking, we can able to actually steal another Waluigi's tile right here. Now I think we've only got about 1 in particular blank spot left. And let's see what minigame are we going to be ending up with. Mario Matrix. We have not played that minigame for such a long while. Although, mind you, I think I actually lost count of what specific board that we actually played this minigame from. Because, mind you, that we already played Shake It Up or Sick and Twisted so many times. So, yeah, I think unfortunately I've lost count on it. But anyways, time to be able to touch those glowing hexagons here. Because usually kind of think about it, this particular minigame does remind me of the film Tron, along with Tron Legacy and stuff like that. So, which honestly I found the first Tron film to be really, really good. And as far as Tron Legacy goes though, it was okay, I guess. But that's probably just me about the forms of I may be biased when it comes to like preferring the original films over sequels. But usually as far as I'm usually concerned with that stuff. So relatively speaking, I should probably be able to win Flip Out Frenzy, basically. Because, well, if you ever played Minigame Wars before, from Mario Party 5, you know exactly how this plays out. Except, well, you have to use motion controls instead of button presses. So, anyways, let's go ahead and select that little blank spot. And as soon as you fill up the entirety of the tiles, basically MC Ballyhoo is now going to tell us the final results. So in this case, I've got 33 points, and Waluigi only has 1. And meanwhile for Luigi and Wario, they both have none, mainly because they didn't win that much minigames. So, yeah, with all that being said though, that pretty much concludes the forms of Flip Out Frenzy. It was actually kind of quick and fast at the same time, unlike, you know, Minigame Wars, it's going a bit lengthy. So, anyways, let's move on to the next mode.